Brad, it's the end of the year, and we're going to
It
do
is.
some predictions. So
Right.
before we jump into that, just two quick housekeeping notes. 2026, we're going to start doing live streams more, so look for those. And we're recording this on December 26th, 2025. The 2-year birthday of 3.8 is on the 28th in 2 days. So by the time this is out, it'll probably be 2-year-old podcast.
Yeah.
And so you were
Happy
the first.
birthday.
Yeah, you were the first guest on 3.8 once upon a time, and you'll be the last guest of 2025, I guess.
Awesome.
Call it.
I'm going to keep it rolling. I'm going to keep that rolling. It's a streak that I get. First
And maybe
last
you'll
guest
be
of
the
year.
first guest of 2026. We should do another one. So we're going to talk about our predictions across art, science, and technology for 2026. So we'll start with art. For 2026, Nathan, what's the biggest thing that's going to happen to art?
Okay. So, first of all, predictions are hard. We were talking about this before.
What
Predictions
do
are
you mean they're
very
easy?
hard, especially in tech. So, take everything we say with a grain of salt here. But I thought we'd be a little bit more optimistic to begin with in art. And I think, especially given the AI slop wave that we've seen
Yeah.
recently, I believe there's going to be a bit more emphasis in 2026 on originality or individualism. So, because of, I think there was a recent deal with Disney and OpenAI to use like
Yeah.
AI. So, I feel like we're hitting the end of the rope on like reusable IP, and people are going to get tired of seeing rehashes of existing IP. And we've already started to see hints of it with. I don't mean to knock on anybody, but if you've looked at like the Marvel franchise,
Yeah.
it's the same heroes rehashed over and over with different stories, right? So
Yep.
I do feel like there's going to be a wave of originality when it comes to art in 2026, and I'm looking forward to that.
I was thinking similar. I think by the end of 2026, I think people are going to get sick of the advances in AI. Like people will appreciate it. It'll be like everything else. When we created the synthesizer in music, it was like really popular. It was overdone. Everybody got burned out on it. That was the 80s. And but the synthesizer's still around. It evolved. It's like now there's a whole genre of music. Electronic dance music, EDM, is just all synthesizer for the most
Hmm.
part. But I agree. I think for my prediction though, I think we're still going to have a pretty big division of AI Luddite and AI
Sure.
positive or pro AI stuff in
Hmm.
art. And I don't know that that's going to resolve in 2026. I will say that if you're not like hip to the AI, you've lost. Just like every other technology. Like I'm not shilling for AI, but like it isn't going anywhere. Like it's definitely overhyped. It's overblown. It's going to impact in ways we can't predict, of course. However, I will say that I think that AI will hopefully help arts folks do their craft better by
Hmm.
freeing up their all of the different stuff that they need to do that isn't necessarily directly related to their art. So they'll be able to be freed up from the selling of stuff, the advertising, the PR, like
Nice.
all that
Yeah.
stuff that like artists are notoriously really bad at.
Hmm.
Well, technology has been here, will solving some of these problems, but now that we have AI has become much more accessible. It's much more embedded. We've talked about products like Lovable, where you can go type a little dissertation of what you want, and the app mostly works and mostly spits out fine. I'm hoping we see more and more of those tools so that people who do art are freed up to do the art and not necessarily as much as a business. And like conversely, folks who are trying to enable art, studios, that kind of stuff, will then also be able to scale up better out of these human run
Hmm.
processes
Yeah.
that don't scale, right? If we're booking people and I'm the booker and I'm working 40 hours a week trying to keep everything running, we can't get more people involved. But if we can figure out ways to make my booking job easier or go away, we can solve that problem, scale it, but then also apply me to things that technology doesn't do well.
Yeah.
And
Nice. I
with
like
all
that.
this hype of AI is going to replace us and AI Jesus and all this nonsense, it's all nonsense. We're losing the thread, and this is making technology even more accessible to people who wouldn't consider themselves technologists or comfortable with technology.
Can I throw in another one? This
Yeah.
is a half joke one. I feel like there's in 2026 there's going to be an anonymous artist who creates art and just happens to be an AI, and no one really knows. Just like we see with music already, right? People were already what was it, Velvet Sundown or whatever it was,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't think it's happened for visual art yet. So
Yeah.
maybe that'll happen in 2026.
For sure. No, I think that's plausible. If it's not already happened and we
If
just
it's not
don't
already
know.
happened, yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't know about it.
All right. What's your prediction for 2026 for the best thing to happen to science?
Oh, science. Okay, I thought we were going to go tech. So earlier we're chatting it, and I was like, I bet you all of our predictions are going to be around AI, and at least mine are. So I'm going to put a big disclaimer out there because it's such a transformative technology.
Yeah.
But for science, I'm a little bit less optimistic. If anything, it's a little bit more pessimistic. There has been this war on science recently, at least here in
Yeah.
the US, and I feel like that's going to continue on, given from what I've seen and some of the work that I've been trying to do with, we're going to call it basic research, translational
Yeah.
research, trying to take and work with labs, natural labs, and seeing some of that slow down. I'm a little worried that's going to carry over into 2026 and probably remain so. Trying to put
Yeah.
a little bit of an optimistic spin on it that does enable maybe more creative ways for people to come in and try and pick up the slack that we've been relying on for government funded research to do some of the basic research. So my prediction is we will have a slowdown in advances in science, and maybe there'll be some sort of resurgence, a grassroots resurgence of people who are in the field try and spin off and do something outside of it. So there's some interesting things happening there as well. That's what I think.
Interesting. Yeah. I,
You've been close to this space in 2025. I'm curious to
yeah.
hear what.
I guess I'll react to what you said, which maybe is my
Okay,
prediction. Like, I think it's doom for science as well because
sure.
the funding stuff, the politics stuff. There's been a lot of trust lost with science due to the
Mm,
ways in which like COVID was handled. There's
mm,
always been skepticism and doomers, but I think the the reason that we got a COVID vaccine as fast as we did was because we were developing novel technologies to try to fight other coronavirus viruses. And the mRNA vaccines were a technology developed over roughly 10 years. And the reason that the technology mattered was because we were able to very quickly reproduce the antibodies effectively or disrupt the signal of the virus so that it wouldn't infect people. If you're a conspiracy theorist with COVID, I don't really give a shit. Don't comment. That's how the technology worked. And the only reason that it worked was because of SARS. It came out in, what was it, early 2000s. Was a big, it's been around for a long time, but it
mm,
was a big outbreak in China and parts of Asia. And people said, gee, let's figure out a better way. There's got to be a better way to these viruses, like HIV is one. The coronaviruses are another family. They adapt so fast that vaccines are very hard because while they might not be a perfect match and prevent you from getting completely sick, they oftentimes will help you reduce symptoms. So like the flu vaccine, I hear every year, oh, it doesn't work. It's a
yeah,
miss.
yeah.
While there's different types of coronaviruses and the flu viruses, the vaccines generally will help you get less sick or maybe not sick at all if you're exposed to that variant. And so we developed that technology and it works. The controversy, I think, really stems from the way that certain people within the government handled the whole thing. During COVID, the early days of COVID, masks don't help, don't wear them. I vividly remember this. And then, the evidence or whatever the opinion changed. And the reality was masks probably were fine the whole time, and you probably should have been wearing them the whole time because they reduce your ability to transmit a virus,
Yeah.
just period. And that was the wrong thing to do. And instead of admitting that or explaining why, and my understanding was it was said because there was a shortage of PPE, we call
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
personal
yeah.
protective equipment, or masks. And we wanted to make sure doctors and nurses and people on the front lines of this mystery thing that
Mm,
created a bunch of mistrust. And then this same guy says this magic vaccine will prevent you from getting sick. And it turns out it didn't prevent you from getting sick. You could still get sick if you have the COVID vaccine. Again, the reality is you're probably less sick or you're exposed to a different variant. So you might not
Mm-hmm.
get sick from the variant that the vaccine is tooled against, but
But you get
as we've
different
discussed, it
version.
evolves very
Yeah.
quickly, and you might get it. So it's like if to make this really simple, if you have a vaccine against Dobermans, the dog, and then a Chihuahua
And
comes along, Chihuahua's still a
bites you.
dog.
Right? To
It's a
visualize it.
much
Yeah.
less scary dog, and maybe the bite isn't as bad, right? You don't get as sick, quote unquote. It's a different thing. And so I think that is going to continue. In my mind, it's very clear that vaccines work. They don't work 100% of the time. They don't work for 100% of people. And instead of admitting that and doing the hard work and trying to explain why some people still get polio if you get vaccinated against polio, because nothing is absolutely effective, even though if you understand statistics, it effectively is universally protective. But that means some people are still going to get it, or it's not going to work for some people. You don't typically get sick from the vaccine. I'll be very clear on that. And people will cherry pick things, create a bunch of controversy without the full context. And people who hear this stuff don't want to get sick. That's why you have a doctor. That's why you have a medical team. Like, I hate the do your research thing because there's so much disinformation in the world. It's
Yeah, you'll
impossible
find
to discern.
confirmation bias is real. You'll find what you want to find.
But the fact that we're even talking about the vaccines have been around for what, 300-400 years in like modern form. Like the Greeks and the Egyptians were experimenting with all sorts of like exposure therapy to try to get people immune from stuff. And again, a lot of times with these viruses, it's not the virus that kills you, it's another virus that you get. If you have a weakened immune system, you get pneumonia because you get a bacterial infection in your lungs from trying to fight the flu or COVID or whatever, and you die from pneumonia. You don't really die from COVID. That was a whole conspiracy thing too that people couldn't get over. It's called comorbidity. And that means you can have more than one thing wrong with you at a time.
Yeah.
No, I know it's a little bit of a rant, but I'm really frustrated by this because we have never been in a much cooler time with so much. I just read a study last night where they published it on Festivus the day before Christmas.
I didn't know that was a real thing. Christmas Eve, you mean?
No, it's the 23rd.
Oh, the day before. Okay, the day before
Christmas.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay.
And they published a study where there's really promising evidence of the ability to reverse Alzheimer's.
Interesting.
In mice, in animal models.
Oh, okay. Is this a neurotech thing or a neurology related thing? Okay.
Yeah. And it's nothing like exotic. They found a compound and they were able to reverse it. And so again, like, people will hear that we've solved Alzheimer's. No, we haven't. We've found a thing that reverses Alzheimer's in certain cases.
In a mouse model, yeah.
Which is how we learn. Right? And if we just inject a bunch of people with Alzheimer's with this drug or whatever, is it going to work? Probably not, to be honest. But we've made a really big leap forward in our understanding that this is reversible. And there's been other studies that suggest that you can either slow or reverse this also. But this one is like hot off the presses. I haven't had a chance to really internalize it, but it looks really promising. So my prediction for 2026 in science is that we're going to continue to make really strong advancements, but they're not going to make it to the public.
Sure.
And I think that, as you were saying, the distrust in science is going to continue, unfortunately. And things like the Alzheimer's and mice reversal should get everybody excited, and we should be funding basic science. And from what I understand, it was basic science that produced this.
Yeah.
And that's how you build. And maybe 10 years from now, we'll be talking about Alzheimer's isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah,
that'd be 99% of people who get diagnosed with Alzheimer's get it reversed. Just like HIV 20 years ago was a death sentence. And there's more and more cases now where people have such low levels of the virus, they're considered HIV free, not able to transmit it, and they're not getting sick from it. So do we cure it? I don't know. That's a hard one. Yeah, but we've made it in such a way where you can live a normal life. And there's all sorts of political bullshit around that too. It's really cool that there was a virus that hurt people that we got rid of or made inert so that it doesn't hurt people. Why can't we celebrate that?
Yeah, no, it's a very good note to end on. We've actually cured diseases before.
Why aren't we talking about this stuff more? Yeah, so my prediction is that we're going to continue to see really cool leaps in different pieces of science. But because scientists are very skeptical of AI and technology. I don't think it's going to be AI accelerated. I think it's going to hold us back. And I think once science starts adopting AI for things that AI does well at, we're going to see massive leaps, and we're all going to be saying, why didn't we do this sooner?
Yeah. That reminds me of some of the
That's my
conversations we've
prediction
had
for
before.
2027.
All right, already making longer term predictions.
Yeah,
Cool.
and just to be clear, like AI isn't going to take over science and obsolete scientists, but like everything else we talk about with AI, there's all sorts of stuff that scientists have to do that could be freed up by something else. And there's a lot of people who work in science who don't do science. There's all these rules and regulations, and anyone who's lived knows there's all this crap you have to do in life. Someone's got to do it. If you don't pay someone to do it, then the people who are supposed to be doing the breakthrough science has to do it.
Yeah, cool. We're aligned on that.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
2026, what is the best thing that will happen to tech?
So my
Drum
answer is a
roll.
little adjacent. Yeah, it's adjacent to tech. I think we're going to see more digitization. It's always been a thing where, just get more digital representation of physical stuff in the world. But again, using an anchor of AI as a facilitator of efforts here, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that once we start to digitize things, AI, you can swing the AI hammer around and it's going to have a lot more impact, right? So like smart cities, we're seeing it with cars, putting more sensors on things, representing the physical space in the digital world in different ways is going to enable AI, which can do a lot of good things for us in the world. So embodied AI, I think, is still far off, but we're making heavy investments towards it. So my prediction for 2026 is maybe a big company that comes out and starts talking about better sensors or something along the lines of digitizing physical spaces somehow, some way, shape, or form. Combined with VR and stuff, like maybe they were too early on the timing, but I think that's a big emphasis for 2026 is digitizing stuff.
Yeah, I generally agree. And I think for people to try to grasp a little bit more too, it's like one of the reasons why like driverless cars work so well is because we've spent an inordinate amount of time making driving trivial. So we have lines in the road. We have roadways that are relatively smooth. We have intersections that tend to have
rules and laws
corners,
right.
We have all of these procedures that, so most people don't realize, like they don't think about it because you learn how to drive and you just intuit a lot of this stuff because it's so baked into our culture. When it first started driving, we didn't have all this. There was accidents all the time and people were getting hit and killed and it was terrible. So we fixed it. So AI was actually able, I think, to probably be more easily adapted to those environments because there's a bunch of rules. And driving's still hard. People still get in accidents. Random stuff happens all the time. But it's pretty well understood. It's like playing a game, right? It's like the rules are there. People will break the rules, are cheap, but for the most part, the rules are the rules and they make sense. Everything else isn't like that. And I think that's why a lot of people are so overwhelmed all the time because our society and our world is so complicated and we constantly are spinning out new processes of things you need to learn and be able to do and cope with and understand quickly that AI is not really good at that, surprisingly.
No way.
I know it is and it isn't. It's a really fascinating thing. Like it'll learn ways to cheat, but the OpenAI or was it Anthropic's vending machine? I don't know. Maybe they both did it where they had AI try to manage a vending machine, and the first thing it tried to do is basically like extort people to buy. Like if you don't buy the candy bar at $300, then you can't have a candy bar ever again, or I'm gonna email your family and like extort you and shit. And like we've agreed we don't do that, but AI had to figure that out the hard way. But making the world a more AI friendly place in terms of its ability to understand the world is definitely like a big step. Everybody talks about data with AI too. Data is important, but a lot of the ways the data gets in now is people, right? Mm-hmm. And if we can actually expose the world via sensors and data points, and I think like data freshness is something that people in the industry or like in data will talk about, but the average person probably has no idea. If you put a bunch of information in a spreadsheet and upload it to AI, the AI can make all sorts of information and determinations on that. But if anything changes on that spreadsheet and you don't change it,
it's out of date, right?
AI doesn't know, right? And so it's not as useful. But if AI can, when all the chat programs got the ability to search and then go out to the internet and pull the latest information, it got them around their training problems.
Period. And that was kind of it. Yeah, those cut off. Then there's this cutoff. Yeah, that they didn't know anything that happened since.
And then also made it easier to get information in and out of the thing. So I think you're onto the right track there. My prediction for 2024 or 2026, 2024. My prediction,
Backwards prediction.
AI will be the talk of 2025. My prediction for tech in 2026, the most impactful thing. I struggle with this. I haven't, we were talking a little bit earlier. I don't know if I know. I think the biggest thing in 2026 for tech is going to be a Fortune 100 company is going to come out and they're going to say, we spent X amount of dollars on AI. We have no idea what that value is, and we're going to scale it back, or we're going to hire more people.
Oh, interesting.
And
I
they're
like
not
that.
going to say it like that, right? They're not
Yeah,
going to come
yeah,
out and
yeah,
say,
yeah.
we up, but we're going to see a very strong signal from a major company or a major player saying, yeah, we're using AI. It's fine, but just like Ford with the F-150 Lightning, the all EV truck, they basically said we're scrapping it. We're not doing it anymore. We're going to see the equivalent of that with AI in a company by the end of
Okay.
2026.
I like it because it's bold. It's very direct.
Yep.
It's very concrete. So I've been cheating, giving broad answers, but that one's pretty on point.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I want to be
interesting.
clear, like AI is not going anywhere. And I keep rehashing the point of it's a fantastic technology for what it's good at, but like every technology, it's not magic. It doesn't do
Hmm.
everything, even though a lot of people are trying to convince you and sell you on that. But what it does do is really good. And there's a lot of ways you can use AI in your job to become more efficient and more productive. And we're going to continue to see that trend for sure in
Hmm.
2026. But I do
Agreed.
think someone's going to call bullshit.
Interesting. Do you have any front runners for who you think might be the ones to do that? There have already been companies that have scaled back their investments. Like I think it was
Yeah.
Microsoft or some other companies
Yeah.
that.
Cheating because it's already happening in
Yeah,
2025. No one's really just,
yeah.
no one's had the gumption to come out and just
Yeah,
say,
just
yeah,
flat out say it.
it's a cool technology, but like it's not ready for us or it's not really doing
Hmm.
what everyone is promising. I think a lot of the companies who are trying to do AI still, especially the big ones, are so early
Hmm.
in adoption that they haven't recognized it yet. But the fundamental law of economics is that if you spend a bunch of money on something, eventually someone's going to ask what they got for that
Yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What's the ROI on this? Yeah.
And we've transitioned our companies from value to story driven. So whoever tells the best story gets the flame and the notoriety and the capital. But eventually the capital markets catch up and they say, great, you had this really cool story for however many years. Where's my more money? Right? I
Yeah, yeah.
invest in you to return some sort of return on investment. I don't see that return on investment. When the equities markets are all cooked, it the financial incentives for this sort of thing to happen have never been stronger. Like everything is overvalued. There's nowhere to park money. So unless we do get some magic AI breakthrough that everyone I know doesn't think is going to happen, then we'll see progress. It'll always get better, just like everything in technology. It'll get better. But I think we're done seeing these massive leaps in AI. There's a broader prediction. I
So the
don't think
bubble's
we're
gonna
going to
burst.
see. I don't know if well, there's too much money, I think, in the bubble right now for it to really
Okay, for it
burst.
to actually burst, sure.
Way too
But
many
it's gonna
people.
start deflating.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see mega deals. Like maybe in the early part of first half of 2026, we'll see some more mega deals, but I don't think we'll see anything after that, or at least not on the scale. There might be one, but I don't think we'll see the massive investment pieces. But yeah, from a big player, I think we're going to see more consolidation before we see defeat. And
Okay.
so I could see Microsoft buying like Anthropic or Apple
Oh,
buying
really?
Anthropic
Okay.
or something like that. OpenAI might be absorbed or merged into something too, because the massive tech companies are going to want to acquire the tech once the R&D curve stabilizes. And
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think we've seen the R&D curve stabilize. Like yes, there's still advancement. Yes, there's still more R&D we need to do,
We've hit
but everyone's
we've
going
picked all
after
the low
data
hanging
centers
fruit.
and
Yeah,
chips.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's like how can I just run the damn thing, let alone train the next thing? And as we've seen in the most recently, like yes, like Gemini 2.5 to Gemini 3 was a pretty big leap. OpenAI 4 or whatever to 5 was a decent leap. 5 to 5.1, 5 to 5.2.
Incremental. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, better, but is it like going from 3 to 4? No.
Mm.
Is it Gemini 1 to Gemini 2? No. And that's just the natural technology curve. And we'll have another bump, right? And then Gemini 5 will be awesome, and then we'll plateau, and then it'll bump. It's Moore's law, effectively. But the amount of compute and energy and all this shit that we need to get to that next bump is pretty capital and physics intensive, and eventually people, I think, are going to get sick of that too, and they're not going to want their electric bill to go up anymore.
Yeah,
and
that's a good prediction.
Other uses for electrons.
Yeah. Costs are going to go up for energy for sure.
They already are. And it's yes, we need to have more energy in the United States. I think the administration's take on getting rid of solar and wind and only focusing on natural gas and oil and nuclear is insane. Like, we should have a free market for energy. And if you want to do large scale solar and large scale wind, that's awesome. That's called diversification, folks. Like, environmentalism, energy, all this other shit aside, like, the way that you are a capitalist is you have diversity of stuff. And when you get a monopoly, it breaks. We all know that. I'll make the rules. They teach you that in MBA school, yet everybody wants to go create a monopoly because they think it's great. But the reality is you hurt yourself as much as the rest of the market when you have monopolies. But maybe we'll figure that out in 2026.
Yeah, that's one of the predictions I think will not come true.
2028.
Push it out a little bit farther. Yeah, sure. As long as we have humans, I think there's always going to be the goal for someone trying to build a monopoly.
Well, happy end of 2020 V5.
Yes. Yes.
I still think of time in post-COVID terms.
It's kind of stopping. Yeah.
I feel like we're still in a pause loop state, and we're just on the 5th version of whatever insanity came out of COVID.
Yeah.
We get out of that in 2026.
Darkest timeline kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't even know it's that. It's just, we've talked a lot about this, but it's
something happened during that period of time that caused.
Like the movie thing. Where are my new movies? It's all rehashing. Like, I was looking at movies last night on Christmas after dinner. Oh, we should watch a movie or something. And I think it was Apple TV. And I am not tapped into this stuff, but scrolling through, and it was like thing 1, thing 2, thing 1, thing 2, thing 3. Some thing variation of another title that is a sequel. Right, and I'm like, Apple TV is like 4 or 5 years old, and they're already in sequels. And great, if people are really into something, cool, expand on it, make it better, iterate 100%. But we don't try new things, it seems like, anymore.
Yeah.
And creativity needs to flourish through new stuff. And a lot of times that new stuff doesn't pan out. Okay, you learn from it, and then in your 15th attempt at doing something maybe completely unrelated, you get the new blockbuster hit. Iron Man didn't exist forever. And the original Iron Man, if you were to go back and look at it now, talking about Marvel characters, you'd be like, this is the most boring, dumb thing I've ever seen.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen Marvel Iron Man 1.
It's different. Yeah, no, it's different. And that's part. Some people are into that. Cool. But it was a different time with different culture, with different people. And it's evolved over time. And that's awesome. But give me my new Iron Man. And all the comic book people are probably shouting right now, telling me about all this stuff I don't know anything about. But get it in the mass market. Get it something. I'm not a comic book nerd. I know about them. But give me something new that's not based on the kind of universe ideas that we've seen for the last 10 years.
Right.
It's my challenge for 2026.
That was one of my predictions. It's going to happen.
We'll see.
We will see.
Anything else to wrap it out? We're almost 2 years old.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
2025.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things that we've been going on for 2 years, and we always come back to the same ideas, right? Like creativity, intention. It's reassuring to me that there's always a topic to talk about when it comes to this kind of stuff, and hitting the 2-year mark and still having good conversations and things that we want to talk about. It's refreshing. It's nice.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
it. And thanks to the audience in 2025 and 2024 and 2023. It's the audience-ship, the listenership, the viewership, whatever verbs we need there has grown. And over the last, I guess, third quarter of 2025, we started doing YouTube stuff, and the viewership has grown tremendously on YouTube, more than I ever thought it would. which is awesome. I love it. The listenership continues to grow as well across all the different platforms. It's awesome. And again, podcast@38.com. Let us know what you're thinking. If you have ideas or stuff you want to talk about, let us know, and we'll start doing live streams more frequently in 2026 sometime.
Yeah, show up for those and be engaged and talk about stuff. And
that was the goal for 2025 for 38, was to be more interactive. It just didn't happen.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I know it was something we talked about, but I didn't know that was our goal.
I put together I put together like a business plan.
Oh shoot!
You remember that? I think I sent it to you. I should dig that out.
I may not have looked at it.
I know.
I may not have looked at it.
No, this was mid 2023 when I was thinking about doing a podcast, and it wasn't. I wasn't thinking about doing a podcast. I was thinking about how do I inspire creativity in society, and the idea is maybe best suited for another time.
Yeah, those would be good topics to discuss, I think, in general.
Yeah, maybe we should open with 2026 on that. But the idea was very different. And then the podcast came out of it as like a way to do exposure of the ideas around creativity. But I've always wanted it to be participatory in some way.
Yeah.
It's hard with a mass audience. It's hard to get started, like if you already have a bunch of money and funds and notoriety and fame and stuff. Yeah, we'll figure that nut out in 2026, I think. But we've done some live streams, we've had participation, and I enjoy it more.
Good.
Frankly, yeah.
That's the reason why you do these, right? Because you
appreciate you talking to me weekly for 6 months in 2025, and I'm looking forward to 2026.
Yes, me as well.
I guess that's not true. We've been talking weekly for a long time.
We've been a long time. Yeah, we've been talking for a long time before. That's true. I was gonna say, that's true. We have been talking for a long time.
Cool. All right. Take care. See you next year.
All right. Yes. See you all next year.
You can find us at 38.com. It's like the word create, but with a 3 instead of the C. As always, we encourage you to listen, watch, do. We'll see you next time.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/38 or at ko-fi.com/38.
Thanks for listening.